Just a heads up, it's, taking a minute to, connect live, and
Okay.
so we're heading there. Sorry about that. Just wanna let you know what was going on.
Yeah, no worries.
Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio. You as a whole, your body, mind, and soul. My name is Justin Mirigliani. For those who haven't seen us before, and for those who are joining us again, welcome back. And this one's a special one. It's amazing to me how things in life can be so synergistic, I guess would be the word. I guess I'm scratching my head wondering if that's even the right term. But 2 weeks ago, I did a show on loved ones who have passed on and how they still communicate with us and how they still try to make their presence felt and try to make sure that we know that they're okay and that they're still with us. And that was just 2 weeks ago. And I talked about miracles. I talked about the miracle of when I had a dream about a coworker of mine, Betty, who passed away in a car accident 2 weeks after she had given me some advice, and I was about to thank her and tell her how much I cared about her. And 2 weeks later, I get a call and she's gone. And then a couple of months later, I have a dream and she says, "Now's your time to thank me." And that, I thought that was a miracle. Or the Emmett Kelly miracle. The Emmett Kelly miracle is the miracle where Emmett Kelly was the sad clown, and he never had a picture of him taken without a smile on his with a smile on his face. He always had the sad clown face, and he would never let anybody catch him out of character. And there's one picture in the whole world of him out of character with a wide smile, and it's him on a payphone, and it was him learning the news that he became a father, that he had a daughter. And when he died, his daughter was on a plane flying to his funeral, and she was reading an article about Emmett Kelly. And remember the name Emmett because it's going to come up later in this show. And again, I told this story 2 weeks ago, so you're hearing it again. You're probably like, why is he saying this again? But anyway, Emmett Kelly's daughter was flying to his funeral, and she was reading an article about her father, and the picture of him smiling was in there. And the photographer might have won a Pulitzer Prize for the picture. I don't remember. I think he may have, or he was in the running for it, something like that. So she started to cry on the plane, and the guy sitting next to her said, "What's wrong? Is there something I could do to help you?" She said, "Well, my father died, and I'm flying to the funeral." And he tells her that he's sorry, to hear that, and who was her father. And she said, "Well, this is my father." And she pointed to the picture. She said, "My father was Emmett Kelly, the clown, the sad clown. And this is the only picture ever taken of him out of character with a smile on his face." And the guy's blood ran cold. And he said, "You're not going to believe this, but I was the photographer." She was sitting next to the photographer who took that picture 30, 40 some years before. What were the odds of that happening? I mean, if you tried to go to a casino and put odds on that, they wouldn't even know what number to pick. There's not a number high enough to put what the odds would be that would happen like that. And his name was Emmett Kelly. And again, 2 weeks ago, the show was about things like that. And I've experienced them myself. And I'm not going to go through all the ones that I talked about 2 weeks ago, but keep in mind, it's 2 weeks ago. This past week, I woke up and my mother came up to me. I was at my parents' house that night. I was working in media and in Delaware County. And she looked sad. And I said, "What's going on?" She said, "Uncle Robert passed away this morning." And I was stunned. He wasn't well. And that's why I'm dressed like this, by the way. This is how Uncle Robert dressed. I usually have my collared shirt on and hair done and everything like that. But he was a Philadelphia Eagles fan, and that's one thing that we shared a lot together was sports. We really bonded over sports a lot and talked about sports a lot. And this is what he would wear, and that's why I'm wearing it today on the show. I figured it was a good tribute to him. Always a black Nike sweatshirt and an Eagles hat or an Eagles jersey and an Eagles hat. For those who are overseas, the Eagles play in Philadelphia. They're the football team. But we really bonded over the Eagles, especially Philadelphia Phillies too in baseball, but especially the Eagles. And it meant a lot to him. So my mother told me that Uncle Robert passed away, and I just, it was devastating. I mean, it was just so hard to take. A couple of hard knocks over the last couple of years have really been tough for me. I've talked about my depression and my anxiety and some things that I've had to suffer through over the last couple of years. And this was just another, full punch in the mouth. I mean, it was just one of the worst ones I've ever had in my life, really. And it's 2 weeks later, and I'm talking about, again, death and loved ones that have gone before. And I can't help but wonder if that show 2 weeks ago somehow, some way, did I know that something was about to happen, that I was going to need to think about that. And maybe I was preparing myself for something that was coming that I didn't even know was coming. And I don't know if you believe that God tells us somehow, gives us whispers in our ear and gives us a secret, says that, "Hey, listen, be ready." Or if you believe it's nature or whatever you believe. But I wonder if somehow, some way, the reason why I had that show 2 weeks ago was in preparation for what I was going to have to go through and my family has to go through now, this from last week. And then Uncle Robert will be buried next week. So it's really not haunting, but certainly ironic that we had that show. Now, were there any miracles in this case? Well, I don't know. It depends on how you look at it. For some reason, I don't know why, every morning I wake up with some tune in my head, and it could be any tune from any genre of music. I don't know why that happens. I really don't. And then it's on repeat in my brain for like maybe 45 minutes after I get up. I think about it, and that song just plays in my head and over. And I'm an 80s kid. I grew up, I was born in 1974, so most of the 70s are a blur, but the 80s aren't. The 80s were when I was growing up. In the 90s, of course, I was in high school, college, and went through and became an adult in the 90s. And for some reason, before my mother told me about Uncle Robert, there was a song that was in my head. The song that was playing was Charlie Brown, that Charlie Brown, he's a clown, that Charlie Brown. I don't even know who wrote that song. I don't know um, who wrote it. I don't know when it was written. It was written long before my time. It was probably written in the 60s, maybe even the 50s. And that song was repeating in my head that morning before my mother told me that Uncle Robert had passed away. So I thought, I mean, does this have some connection? I mean, because it was his generation where that song would have come from, and I didn't know what to do with that. I didn't know if that was a sign or if that was just me hoping or what. But in any event, I called my aunt later that day, my Uncle Robert's brother, Janet, and I called Aunt Janet and I said, if Uncle Robert loved the song Charlie Brown, and I told her what the song was, and she said, no, but your other uncle, her husband, loved that song, and he passed away in 2014. And she said he would hum it every morning. And I wonder, I can't help but wonder if my uncle, and his name was Bobby, so it's Robert and Bobby. I wonder if Uncle Bobby, who died in 2014, was sending a message that, hey, Uncle Robert's up here with me now. He's here in heaven. And again, I don't believe the heaven's up. I believe it's all around us. I think we're just in another dimension, but it's all right here. I don't think it's far away. But I wonder if it was Uncle Bobby giving me the message, hey, listen, you're going to be upset in a little bit. I know the heavy news is coming, but I'm putting the song in your head to let you know that I'm thinking about you, and I know that you're going to be upset about Uncle Robert, but don't worry about it because I got him. And that's how I took that. Now, the whole thing about Emmett Kelly, which is funny, is my Uncle Robert's middle name is Emmett. He's born in 1946. So Emmett wasn't a name that it was very popular. I mean, you don't hear that name very often, even today. It's not a popular name. I could think of maybe two or three other Emmets that I've heard of before. Emmett Smith from the Dallas Cowboys, and maybe a couple others, but that's about it. So it's a fairly rare name. Um, and when I was talking to my aunt, I said to my Aunt Janet, where did he get the middle name Emmett? And she told me, oh, well, your grandfather, my uncle's father, my dad's father, my Aunt Janet's father, his name was Vincenzo, but they called him Chenzi in Philadelphia. And he loved Emmett Kelly. He was a big fan of Emmett Kelly. And that's why they named Uncle Robert Emmett. His middle name was Robert Emmett Mirigliani. That was his full name. So his middle name was Emmett. And his name being Emmett was because of Emmett Kelly. And 2 weeks ago, I did a show about a miracle with Emmett Kelly. So again, I mean, are these coincidences? Are these things that are just happening out of the blue? Or are these things that have meaning, that make connections, that are actual true connections? And I believe that they are. I believe that they are. And I was at my parents' house last week. Like I said, I was working close to their house, so I stayed over their house in my old room. And my dad is a very spiritual person, and he was listening to a lot of music. And I remember it was just a day before Uncle Robert passed away. My dad was listening to a lot of religious music, which he normally does. It's not out of the ordinary for him, but he listens to a lot of religious music, and he really enjoys it. And most of it that morning, I remember, were songs about death. They were mostly Catholic songs because we're a Catholic family, but they were songs about death. They were songs like "Be Not Afraid" and "You Are Mine," and a bunch of other songs that were "On Eagle's Wings," and songs that you would think about uh, with the death of a loved one and a funeral. And I mentioned it to my mother. I said, "Mom, Dad's listening to a lot of religious music, which is not out of the ordinary, but he's listening to a lot of songs that have to do with death and have to do with living after death and resurrection and life after death and how death doesn't conquer us and all those things." And I said, "Well, I wonder why he's listening to that particular music. I wonder why it's not more of a like joyous type of music or a type uh, still religious songs, but religious songs that maybe didn't have to do with that kind of death." And jokingly, I said, "It sounds like a funeral parlor in here." And again, I look back at that now in retrospect, and I think, did he know? I mean, is there some way that he knew that his brother was going to die the next day, and subconsciously somebody whispered in his ear, "Get ready, get prepared, listen to these songs because these songs are meant to make you remember that it's not over, that it's not just, your 78 years in Uncle Robert's case, and then you just are gone, that you go beyond that, that you last beyond that, and your memory goes on and your spirit goes on, and then there is an afterlife where you're together with family and friends." So it's just it seems more than ironic to me, at least, that he would be listening to that type of music um, just one day before his brother passed away. And Uncle Robert was a great guy. Not only with the sports, he was funny. He really cared. I've made it no secret that I've had trouble with mental illness, especially depression and anxiety and OCD. And over the last 2 or 3 years, there have been some things that have happened in my life that have been very difficult to swallow. That even if I did not have those issues, which I've had since birth. When I was 8 years old, I was in therapy for depression and anxiety. But even if I didn't have those problems, um, there are things that have happened over the last couple of years that have been really, very, very painful moments. And then this one adds on top of it. But all through the last, I would say 9, 10 months, Uncle Robert, who was very sick, not we didn't know he's dying, but he was on dialysis. He had been on dialysis for about 5 years or so, I think. He was in stage 4 kidney failure, but he was getting along. I mean, he was driving still, and he was getting around, and he was weak, and he was shuffling, and signs of age were taking hold, and signs of fatigue from dialysis. And folks who don't know about dialysis, I've never been on dialysis, and I'm thankful for that. But knowing several people who have, they tell you that it's a very grueling process and it wears you down. And but he never hesitated to pick up the phone when I would call him when I was depressed. And sometimes I would call him and I would be crying, and he would just wait, and then he would say, "What's the matter, Just?" And then he would just let me tell him what was the matter. But I would call him and, not be able to even get any words out yet. and he would just sit there and wait. And then there were other times where he would fight like crazy to stay on the phone with me because he knew I was hurting. And he would say, I can't stay on much longer because I can't hold the phone up much longer. My arm's tired and I'm tired. I need to sleep. And I would tell him, just get rest, just go ahead and get rest and take a nap, get your sleep and feel better. And we ended every call with, I love you, every call. And that brings me peace now that he knew I loved him and I knew he loved me. I did suffer with suicidal ideation over the last couple of years. I had, I don't know if I would call them attempts. They were half-hearted attempts, I guess. But I got to the point where I had plans, which is never good. It's not, that's the time it's got to be taken seriously when there are plans. It's beyond just thinking about it. It's now, planning and action. And I found out this week that he's been calling family members and saying, "You don't think he'll follow through with that, do you?" He was very worried that I would follow through with suicide, um, and I won't. I won't. I'm. One of the things this is teaching me is that if I could take all of this, then I'm stronger than mentally than I think. I've always been physically strong. Well, not always. When I was a kid, I wasn't, but as an adult, I've been a gym rat my whole adult life, and I'm very physically strong and in at 49 years old in better shape than I was when I was in my 20s. And I never gave myself enough credit, I don't think, for being mentally strong. I was worried about, oh, you got depression, you got anxiety, you're not going to be able to handle things when they happen. And I can't say that I'm happy right now. I can't say that I'm really enjoying life. Um, But I'm confident in myself right now, and I'm confident that I'm going to get through this week, and I'm confident that I'm going to help other people get through it, like my cousins who lost their father, and my own father, and my mother, and my cousins, and second cousins, and all the other people who are, and my aunt, and all the other people who are hurting too because they're missing Uncle Robert right now. Yesterday the Eagles played the Dallas Cowboys, and he would have been really excited about that. That would have been a big deal to him because in Philadelphia, Dallas Cowboys are the most hated football team in the NFL, and that's the biggest rivalry in all of our sports here in Philadelphia. It's Dallas and the Eagles. I mean, that's everybody circles those two dates on the calendar every year where they play each other. And yesterday, the Eagles demolished the Cowboys, and he would have been, and I'm sure he was from heaven, really happy. And it would have been nice to celebrate with him and talk to him. The Eagles won the Super Bowl for the first time ever in 2017 season, but it was in February, so it was 2018. The season was 2017, but 2018 was when the Super Bowl was played. So it was February of 2018. And unfortunately, we couldn't be together. I was at one party and he was at another party. And the first person I texted was Uncle Robert when the Eagles won. And the week before, or 2 weeks before, when they got to the Super Bowl, I texted him and I said, "Hey, we're going to the Super Bowl. What do you think?" And he said, "I don't know." He said, "I think we got a good shot, and I think that they got a good game plan to beat the New England Patriots, who were a dynasty at the time." And then the night of the Super Bowl, again, we weren't together, but the second that buzzer went off, when the shotgun went off and the game was over, and we all were jumping up and down, the family that was there with me, and my father and my mother and my cousins, and we were hugging each other and celebrating. The first person I texted was Uncle Robert, and I said, what are you doing? What do you think? And he wrote back in all capital letters, "We're Super Bowl champions." He said, "I'm crying like a baby." He said in his text, and I still have the text, and I'll always have that text. I'll keep that forever. But even that, we got to celebrate a little bit. We got to have even though we weren't together, got to celebrate a Super Bowl together. I wish he was healthier, could have enjoyed it more, but he lived to see it. And that's great. That's something that really meant a lot to him. And now it means even more to me that they won that Super Bowl because of the moment that I had. And this week I wrote a poem about Uncle Robert, but I think it pertains to all of us because I don't think there's anybody watching this show right now or who will watch this down the road on YouTube who hasn't experienced loss and hasn't experienced seeing somebody who they love seemingly disappear. So this is dedicated to Robert Emmett Mirigliani, but it's really for all of us. It's really dedicated to everyone who's felt loss. So I'm going to read it to you now. And it's a little small, so bear with me as I try to read it from my phone here. It's called When the Line Goes Flat. When the line goes flat and the day is now completely done. When the line goes flat and every song has been fully sung. When the line goes flat, what you left behind will have no meaning. All that will matter are the rich memories that will keep us beaming. When the line goes flat, it'll seem like you are gone. But deep down in our hearts and souls, we know that's very wrong. When the line goes flat, you're just in another dimension. Jesus made sure of that with his crucifixion and ascension. When the line goes flat, you'll see the ones you loved before. When the line goes flat, all the pains you had will be no more. When the line goes flat, all your mistakes will be erased. God holds nothing against you when you're staring in his face. The line will go flat for all of us who cry here on this day. And there will be those to cry for us and understand our pain. But like for us, the pain will ease for them and they will carry on. It's the strength loved ones leave behind that help us all stay strong. This part of life is always hard, but we have to remember we were born, we live, and we die, but our spirit stays forever. We thank you, God, for our loved one and the time we had to share. And when it's our turn to go home to you, please let them be right there. So that's what I wrote about Uncle Robert. And even though it's dedicated to my uncle, I think it is something that everybody can relate to, something that everybody feels. We've all lost people. I've lost people before this. I'm 49 years old. It's not like it's the first loss of my entire life. It's one of the hardest ones. It's one of the ones where, it's somebody that you're really close to that you grew up with, and they were there from your birth. And he was my godfather on top of it, and I remember birthday parties and stuff when we were little, and him being at my wedding and doing one of the readings, and just the funny things that he did, the crazy things that he did. He was a jokester. He had his own way. He never wanted to burden other people. People get mad at him sometimes because he wouldn't return phone calls. He would, you'd call him and he wouldn't return phone calls. And I found out this week why. He knew that he was sick and he knew that he wasn't doing well. And he was afraid that if he did make phone calls back and tell people what was really going on, that he would upset them. And he didn't want to do that. He didn't want to have anybody be worrying about him. So it was easier for him to just not make the call or answer the phone and just let it go. And a lot of people might take that and say, well, why are you ignoring me? Why are you ghosting me? We always talk about people ghosting us and never giving us, hey, I'm calling you and you're not calling me back. Why? And, it's easy to get mad and it's easy to say, well, they just don't want to be bothered. But that wasn't the case. That wasn't the case for Uncle Robert. Uncle Robert just didn't want to have to burden everybody else, which honestly would not have been a burden uh, to any of us, but in his mind it would have been. So he was sure to save us from that. And that's just what his heart was like. That's the heart that beat, and the heart that he left behind. So again, to kind of recap as we get towards the end of the show, it's just ironic to me that and I know that you can see the flashing because that just to let you know, we do have a green screen and the Eagles wear green and there's green under the hat. So when you see the flashing like that, that's because there's green under the hat. But I didn't care tonight. I figure that's a small price to pay uh, for to have this tribute to my uncle. I hope that people really do believe that there is something beyond this, that this isn't the only life that we live. This is not the end, that we do go on, that we will be together with our loved ones forever. And there won't be any goodbyes. There won't be any sad days. There won't be any worries about diabetes or dialysis. There won't be any worries for me for having an ostomy bag. And, uh, there'll be no depression. There'll be no anxiety. There'll be no cancer for people who are suffering with cancer. There won't be any days where you say, I really miss this person. I wish I could call them. I mean, how many times in the last week have I thought to myself, I got to call Uncle, and then stop and remember, oh, I can't call Uncle Robert, because I call him like once a week. And I talk to his son, my cousin Greg, and Greg talked to him every single morning. And his daughter Jennifer talked to him at least every day, if not more, sometimes twice and three times a day. And for them, that's tough to know that's not going to happen now. Um, we live in a great age in some ways. In some ways we don't. In some ways we do. And one of the great things about this age, and I'm talking about 80s up, is we have the gift of video cameras. And from the, I guess, I don't know, teens, people had handheld cameras, I guess, or the 20s at least. So we have cameras and we had pictures of people. Whereas, in the 1800s and the 1700s, I guess you had portraits, I guess, but there were no real pictures of people in action. But, really in the 80s is when we started to have video of people. And I think still pictures are nice, but there's hard to find context in them. You don't know what was going on exactly, but now we can look back at videos of people like Uncle Robert and see what they were doing and the jokes that they were telling. We could hear the stories that they were telling and laugh at the jokes. And maybe you're not right now. Maybe it's too hard to listen to at this point. But I look on my phone and I see text messages and voicemails that he left. And I don't have to worry about, will I forget what he looked like, or will I forget what he sounded like, or will I forget what his laugh was like, or will I forget what it felt like to be in his presence? No, because I have videos and I have not only my own memory, but pictures and other things that he left behind that are going to remind me. And today being Veterans Day, think about all the people who lost their lives in war too. And my grandfather was a war hero in World War II. My father fought in Vietnam, and my father, thank God, is still alive. My grandfather isn't. He's obviously would have been over 100 years old, or about 100 this year. But his legacy is still alive too. And he died in 2018. So it's a somber show tonight. It's not the happiest of shows, but if there's anything that I hope people take away from it, it's that this isn't over. This isn't the end. This isn't all there is. To me, there's too many connections. It wouldn't be worth it to go through what we go through day in and day out and work as hard as we work to build a life and to build a legacy and to connect our hearts with other people's hearts and then have it not mean anything at the end. It just doesn't make sense to me. I can't accept that as reality. And I know some people who do not believe that. They think when you close your eyes for the last time, that's it. But it's a heck of a way to, and it's their prerogative. But it's a to me an impossibility for me to swallow that would really be the way it is. I really think that this is just one part of life, and the sweetest part, as sweet as this part is, the sweetest part's coming when it's our turn to go home. So, and with that, I just want to remind you that we have, I want to thank you for watching tonight, but I want to remind you that we have our Checkmates hockey game coming up in August of 2023, August 23rd, 2025, in Aston, Pennsylvania. And, as sad as this week was, we got our largest donation ever in personal donation, not corporate donation, personal donation, from someone, anonymous person gave us a number with a comma in it, and it came on Friday, and that was pretty special to have a tough week and then have somebody do that for you that would leave you, in the thousands. So keep watching, especially if you're in the Philadelphia area. Yes, we take donations, but I really would like to see you there. We're going to be selling tickets. I've already talked to Eventbrite. We're getting it ready. We have a lot of NHL stars ready to come out. Mark Recchi, possibly Rod Brindamore, Brian Propp, all kinds of big names in hockey coming out. And it's to help those with Crohn's and colitis and those with an ostomy. Also, Rolf Benirschke, the former kicker and NFL Man of the Year in 1983, he's going to be there, and he'll be promoting his charity as well, which is Embracing Ostomy Life. So for those of us who live with an ostomy, we live with the with it, and we live well, and we do everything everybody else does. Nothing's different, and we can prove that, and I can prove that when I show you when I step out on the ice with some of the NHL stars that have been heroes for me growing up. So if you watch this little vignette, we're going to play of past games, and hope to see you next week. Thank you very much.
Hey everybody, I just want to tell you how thankful I am that you came out tonight and helped us out on a very special evening. Crohn's and colitis are terrible diseases, and they affect a lot of people, not only in the Delaware Valley, but all over the world. And hopefully we can find a cure someday.
Nolan here with you at the Checkmates versus the Flyers alumni. We had a great time this afternoon. Game was close, and we're all here for Checkmates Charities, which is the real reason that everybody's here, not only the players, but all the fans that were here. It was a great day, and we're really happy to be here.
It was fun to be out here at Northeast Skate Zone because the Checos were a pretty good team, and so we had a lot of fun with the charity. And it was good because they took it easy on us old guys. So we had a good time. So anytime you can do something for charity, and I know a couple guys on the other team, and just be on the rink, we all go have fun.
Good times go. I'm either gone in an instant or here to the bitter end. I never know what I've got.
I want to thank my family for all that they did to help me get through this, and there's a lot of planning that get done. It has to get done. I want to thank Nick's Roast Beef and Common Avenue for all they've done. Dr. Prieto for saving my life, finding the disease and treating me for so long, and the Flyers organization for all they do to help us raise money every year. So thank you, everybody.